From the makers of Dog Story, Little Heroes 2, Top Dogs, Little Heroes 3, and who could forget Cell Block Sisters, comes the classic My Uncle, the Alien. So we have plenty of these weird family member movies with the dog, and there's lots of dad movies, there's even a couple mom ones. I don't think I've ever heard of an uncle movie for kids. It had to be special. I mean, what else would it be? You know, one thing I love about movies is that they teach you. You know, you want to teach your young kids that bananas have potassium. Make them watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Bananas have potassium? Lots of it.
You want to teach your kids how to pick up adult women? You make them watch Blank Check. You want to teach their kids that the world that they live in is a dark and miserable place full of suffering and evil? You make them watch My Uncle the Alien. Now, I don't have the real backstory to this movie, but I'm just going to make one up that will help prepare you for what this movie's like. Our handsome director, Henri Charr, graduates from film school with the accolades of most promising filmmaker. Henri lives a mostly domestic life in his LA suburb, where he's known for terrorizing his neighbors with unwanted misanthropic rants and political conversation. Learns about what they are teaching kids in elementary school. He's devastated. He sets out to make a movie that will prepare any child that watches it to grow up with no disillusions about the world they live in. So I'm just going to say this may be one of the great feel-bad children's movies of all time. Sure, I mean, everyone has their favorite traumatizing moment with children's movies when they were little.
Oh, make him stop!
I want to say most of us were probably able to identify that that was still a movie, while this movie does everything it can to genuinely turn your children into either an agoraphobic shut-in, or Travis Bickle. Now, looking at it for a second, it looks like one of those beautiful moonbeam with that just cheap cinematic glow. And I got really excited. But it turns out to be a little bit more like as if Moonbeam had the Asylum on their coattails during their heyday. So here's our protagonist. Kelly. She's the neglected child of the President of the United States. Okay, another President's Kid movie. The girl, okay, poor girl, she's trying her best. It's just...
He's what? Special. Who's this uncle?
Are those adults giving that little girl coding on set?
Friend?
Okay, for me, no big deal. I love direct-to-video children's movies from the 90s. I'll put up with a lot. But then the little girl, she goes with her mother to this youth center. It turns out that this youth center is actually some kind of shelter for homeless children. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to the kids that depend on this place for shelter.
Know with any certainty what the effects of this vote will be. I think that it's best that we keep our opinions in check.
Okay, typically I wouldn't laugh at crippled children, but that is the saddest version of a 90s diversity textbook photo that I've ever seen. Out of this group of 5 friends, one's wheelchair bound, the other one's on crutches for some reason. Blonde one's wearing that denim dress, and this kid not only has a mullet, but it also goes to the middle of his back. Well, I have no idea how this relationship developed. This girl's apparently best friends with these kids. And she pulled up thinking all she had to do was do a tree lighting ceremony and see some old friends.
Well, here it goes.
No, her mom's gonna jump in and allude to the fact that this homeless shelter is gonna close down now. And her mom does this in the most politically hawkish way possible.
Excuse me?
No more federal funds for state-managed youth centers. This is one of them, isn't it?
Do you have any response to that? Typical hit-and-run journalism. I would imagine that the effects of this vote probably will...
Like, are kids watching this even going to know what the hell she's even talking about? This is like watching C-SPAN.
Opinions are based on the review of facts. And since we can't know with any certainty what the effects of this vote will be, I think that it's best that we keep our opinions in check.
These moments, alongside the seedy way that the president is portrayed as this neglectful, dishonest father, kind of unearths this really awkward and unpleasant political undertone.
Well, if tomorrow's budget vote goes south, a lot of widows and orphans will be blaming you.
Well, then we can't let that happen, can we?
And this is why I feel like our buddy Henri here just might have had some qualms with the political situation of his day. And that's fine, but my dude, not the time, not the place. Political criticism is something that is definitively unfun. It is cerebral and frustrating and stressful. If you have something you want to say, making a fucking children's movie is the last way you should try to say it. So when the parents who wanted to put this on for their kids so they could go drink wine in peace in their closet, I don't think they were really expecting this sort of content. Anyway, ignoring all of that, still what we have now is a plot where this little girl's prepubescent disabled friends, in fact, I think we can also conclude that they're probably orphans at this point. So, her prepubescent disabled homeless orphan friends are being forced out of a shelter, and it's up to this 10-year-old girl to make sure their basic needs are being met. Okay, got it. Oh shit, who else is she gonna ask for help but Uncle? Now, I know why you're here, because we're all here for Uncle. The only reason anyone ever looked at this movie in the first place was that scrotum with eyes on the cover. We love ugly monsters over here. If there's enough of them on screen, you would be shocked what I'd be willing to sit through just to see them.
Dur gitme, konuşalım biraz.
There's no way I was ever going to see a poster like this and not want to see more. Now I'm going to let you know right now. This movie had the audacity to commit the cardinal sin of putting your shitty creature at the very, very, very end of your movie. Now, you need to understand something. This movie spent so much time on everything. Everything! For example, despite all the bad vibes this movie radiates, you'd be shocked to hear that of all the things that apparently gets Henry's heart to glow is the Christmas light display in LA. This scene felt so long, I'm literally not kidding. This was probably the closest that I have ever been to being hypnotized. The amount of time they spend on this bit had me fucking glazed. And you are hearing this from someone who is deemed unhypnotizable at the 2008 Renaissance Fair, okay? And they did this throughout the entire movie. Every conversation, every monologue, every joke was an endurance test.
First Lady, any thoughts about state budget vote?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Give us a statement.
How was your trip, Mrs. First Lady?
Any word on the budget package?
But the one thing that they spent nearly no time on at all was her uncle, the alien, the thing the movie's named after. So we'll get to that, but we need to get to this part first before we can do that. Anyways, she briefly mentions that her uncle is the one that she thinks can save her friends.
We're on the street, or worse. Then I'll go see Uncle. You ain't got no uncle.
Uncle? What uncle? I heard you.
Yeah, Kelly, what uncle? He's what?
Who's this uncle?
What does he look like? Kelly, where does he live?
Yeah, Kelly, you little shit. This country deserves to know what your extended family's like. These journalists need to be fired. Why are they harassing this girl over such an uninteresting story? Other than George and Jeb over here, I don't think I could name the sibling of a single president in history. The reason is because no one gives a shit. And then guess what happens? It causes a national scandal.
Oh my God.
So the boxcar kids here help her break out of the White House by dressing up as each other and then switching places.
You look just like me.
What? Even if your Secret Service was colorblind, they should still be able to tell the difference between blonde and brunette. And I'll be honest, I'm not even really sure exactly what she's trying to accomplish by escaping. Like, I know that her main goal right now is to find her uncle the alien, but I guess what she needs to do is just wander the streets of Washington, D.C. to find him. But this movie opened up with her just chilling with Uncle in her bedroom in the middle of the night, so I guess I just assumed that he was a little easier to get a hold of than that. Okay, now shit's really about to take off. Within 5 minutes of her hitting the streets, she gets harassed by a cab driver who proceeds to get in a car crash with her inside immediately after. The cab driver starts fighting with the person he hit. No one cares about how the little girl's doing, so she just gets out and leaves. And it's like a matter of seconds before someone runs up and steals her bag from her. And guess what? This kid's homeless. And then false on the uncle alarm for a second. You think you're gonna see him, but really all that happens is off screen he shoots a alien nose rocket at this boy and just kind of nudges him over.
Hey, dude, I got off this chick and God, what the heck?
Couldn't have said it any better myself, buddy. So clearly this movie could have stopped a long time ago, after the homeless orphans, child mobility issues.
You toilet bagging, 4 wheels running over everyone's foot, pudding-headed dwarf? Ugh.
Neglectful parents, life-threatening car crashes, and robbery. But we aren't done yet, folks, because completely separate from all of that stuff, Kelly then gets violently kidnapped, and it's pretty as fuck. Holy shit. Hey, at least they have good interior design taste. Look at those cupboards. Those are cool. Well, yeah. So it doesn't stop there, okay? Because this kid wants to call the police now to help her, and he calls, and he happens to get the worst fucking dispatcher probably in the world. Clearly distressed kid is calling saying he witnessed a kidnapping. And when the dispatcher finds out that this is about the president's daughter, she makes fun of her.
She's been kidnapped by aliens. You know, little antennas coming out of their heads. Can you describe their spaceship for us?
Because apparently, after the unforgivably irrational statements this 10-year-old girl made when being interrogated by journalists on TV, not even 911 calls can be taken seriously anymore. Well, on a positive note, the place the criminals hide out in is the gone but not forgotten Movieland Wax Museum. Because basically Brink over here decides he has to save this girl himself. And so we managed to get the only cool filler shots in this whole movie. And it was pretty fun seeing the original Star Trek set and all that. And then these figures of St. Joseph that are the only thing they probably had to make it look like they were in a wax museum still after their one night of shooting was spent on location. Is that who I think it is? Okay, bye. Yep, that was it for a while. That is, unless you count those ominous scenes of him staring down on them, hidden in the corner of the room while they sit tied to chairs by ropes. Now, remember when I said this movie spends too much time on just about everything? Well, the next 20 minutes of this movie can be summarized this quickly. The criminals want $1 million in exchange for the president's daughter. So the big plan is to give them the money and then just try and arrest them afterwards. That's it. That's literally the plan. It's not more complicated than that. So why did that take almost 20 minutes to communicate?
Directory assistance, can I help you?
Yeah, what's the number to the White House?
White House, where you mean the president lives?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you'd have to call the DC area code, which is 202.
202.
DC, how may I help you?
Yeah, what's the phone number to the White House?
Which department would you like to talk to?
Well, she's asking which department.
I don't know.
Well, you know, the presidential department.
Yeah. I'll give you the general number, 555
555
9330.
9330.
9330.
Give me some money. Give me some money.
Now we can finally say that we've just about made it to this part. Because you see, like all kidnappers, they say if you try to arrest us, we'll kill the hostage. But the FBI agent, or whatever he is, he's about as good at his job as that dispatcher from earlier.
Looks like he's gonna throw them out of the van. Please advise.
He's bluffing.
Is that the face of a man who's confident in that other guy's ability to protect his daughter? But guess what time that makes it? At exactly 1 hour, 14 minutes into this movie, her uncle, the alien, shows up. And I'll tell you, after waiting this long to see what this movie is supposed to be about, it sure was a lot weirder than I thought it was going to be. I think his physical appearance and voice speak for themselves. Those soulful eyes and a voice like a helium-sucking Yoda will intuitively have a narcotic effect on whoever's watching this.
Aren't you going to introduce me?
But I knew to expect that. What made my mind shatter was the way that Uncle tries to tie up the plot points to this movie. I was pleased that Kelly thought to confront him about the fact that she had been suffering through what were probably the most traumatic experiences of her life, while her all-powerful alien uncle just seemed to be watching while sipping tea the whole time. Excuse number 1.
What took you so long?
Time.
What?
I still can't get
the hang of it. I'm just not aware of it like you people. You know that.
Well, that explains a lot about the pacing of this movie. How that excuse holds up as far as having a script with integrity goes, well, that's a different question. Excuse number 2. Now, I know that pretty much all little friendly magic turd beast movies do that thing where everyone finds out at the end that the little shit is actually some kind of messiah figure that was there to teach them about the true meaning of Christmas or some other truism. But considering everything that's happened so far in this movie, I was really curious if this movie had the balls to try to pull this on us. But alas,
I had some lessons to teach. Lessons? What lessons was I supposed to learn? I didn't steal the cell phone. I didn't close the youth center. I didn't kidnap anyone.
okay, make sure you're sitting for this next part.
See all the work I went through.
You planned everything?
Yes, that's literally where this movie's going with this. Remember when that alien snot rocket knocked that kid over? And those scenes of Uncle shuffling around the wax museum where these children are being held hostage but doesn't do anything? Honestly, for the first time in my life, I think I just wish they let these moments just not make sense like a normal bad movie. But now they do make sense, and it's worse than ever. I was way happier not knowing that he knocked that kid over just to buy enough time to make sure that the kidnapper successfully abducted these children. Uncle, these kids are likely going to struggle with PTSD for the rest of their life because of you. And only one of them is likely going to be able to afford therapy.
What's your problem?
This had all better be for a really f***ing deep lesson, young man.
Okay, what'd you learn?
Rich folks ain't half bad.
Oh, very good.
What? Wait, hold on. I think he actually has more to say than just that.
For money isn't the end, it's the means to an end.
What is the end?
If money isn't used to bring pleasure to people, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Even if you give it away, it brings pleasure. Pleasure you can't buy any other way.
Now, I can't guarantee I know what exactly he's trying to say because it barely makes any f***ing sense. But taking his words at face value, what I'm hearing is stop trying to get money because it won't give you any pleasure, even if your plan is to give it away. First of all, Uncle, the people listening to you right now are as follows. A homeless adolescent, 2 criminals squatting in a defunct wax museum, and the president's daughter who's trying to keep a kid's shelter open for her friends. I mean, Kelly is your fake niece. Are you punishing her for seeking out money so she can keep her friend's shelter open? I just imagine Kelly going back to her boxcar kids where she's telling them, I know you're going to be on the streets without a guardian soon, but don't worry, money won't make you happy. You'll be fine. But okay, let's play along and assume that this is what the lesson they needed to be taught was. Could someone then please explain why robbery, kidnapping, dangling children outside of the back of a speeding van was necessary for her to learn that lesson? Couldn't you just email her a Dave Ramsey podcast or something? And Kelly, here's something that you actually would do well to learn. You have Stockholm Syndrome, sister. Thankfully, it's over now because per little turd friend movie protocol, the little bastard has to leave forever now. And you get used to expecting a hokey explanation as to why. And Uncle's is a little extra.
When I say uncle, you'll be there, right?
Not anymore.
He says that she will stop believing in him, so he's just gonna dip out early. I guess he sort of alludes to this idea that post-pubescent people don't have the kid magic to believe in Uncle or something. But these dudes don't seem to have trouble believing in him, and I don't think they have any kid magic. So maybe you wouldn't have to worry about Kelly not believing in you in the future if you just didn't disappear. I don't know. Besides, I doubt she's going to forget about this situation anytime soon. But whatever, at least she won't have to worry about learning any lessons from you anymore. Yay, everyone's happy. The ransom money goes to the youth shelter. Not sure that's how government money works. The president's a good father now and everything's over. Bye.